This is Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, episode number 172. Today, we talk about avoiding the potholes on the journey from who you are to who you want to become as a leader. So stay tuned for some wisdom.
Welcome back to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. This is the only podcast that shows you how to leverage polarity intelligence, an essential competency for healthcare leaders, and the missing logic in healthcare, so you can create healthy, healing organizations and become a thriving, resilient, and unstoppable healthcare leader.
We are your hosts, Tracy Christofferson and Michelle Trosett. We've been best friends and colleagues for over 30 years. And during that time, we coached healthcare leaders across North America around how to create healthy, healing organizations.
Today, we coach healthcare leaders and leadership teams to live thriving, resilient, and balanced lives, combat burnout, and create the best places to give and receive care.
This podcast is for the unsung hero of healthcare, the healthcare leader. We want you to know we see you and we'll be here for you each week. In this podcast, we're going to challenge healthcare's industry norms, flip limiting beliefs, and share proven strategies so you can be your best self at work and at home, live and lead intentionally, and experience well-being and joy.
We are glad you are here and look forward to sharing the journey with you. If you aren't totally convinced this podcast is for you, just listen to a few episodes and convince yourself.
Welcome, everybody, to Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. It's a Tracy and Michelle show.
Yes, it is.
And I'm Tracy.
And I am Michelle.
In case you haven't been watching us or listening to us. Yeah, here we are.
Right. You have a choice now, or an and in both. You can listen and you can watch.
And watch. Wow.
How about
pretty
that?
Deep, Michelle.
I know. Well, I'm really looking forward to this episode, Tracy.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one.
It is. This is for everybody.
Yes. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Healthcare leader.
Yeah.
A videographer, a podcast producer, a real estate agent. What else we got in our lives?
An integrator.
An integrator. Doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing. This will apply to all.
That's right. That's why I'm so excited about it.
We've been living this one for how many years?
Oh my gosh. Our whole lives,
Our whole lives.
Together
Adult
for
lives,
over
anyway.
30 years.
Yeah.
For over 30 years. So this episode is really about the journey to becoming your best self.
Yeah.
And it never ends. We're always on the journey, and we've learned a few things along the way that we're going to share with you today, and how to avoid some potholes on that journey from being who you are to being who you want to become.
Yeah.
Right? Who do you really want to be? That's the question.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we talk with healthcare leaders, all across the country, one of the main objectives in their engagement with us is, I want to be my best self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm. I want to be the best, the best me I can be, right? Which we do too.
Right.
We do too, right? But there's some things you got to think about when it comes to that. And there's a implication that you're not your best self now.
That's true. That's true. And you have to really identify what your identity is going to be and who you want to become. And that's a really critical piece of it. And we've shared before in the podcast a quote from one of our coaches, Jim Fortin, that you won't outperform your identity. So it is really important to think about that. What is my identity?
Yeah, it is. And I think there's some things, that we don't always think about, but we want to consider. And that is that, we're kind of indoctrinated. When you are trying to become something, there's a thought that you're not complete as you are, right? That you're not good enough as you are, right? That there's something wrong, something that has to be fixed, or something that you have to gain, right? To be your best self. And so, you've got to balance who you want to become with the brilliance of who you are today, right?
Exactly.
You got to recognize that you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with who you are today. You're on a journey. We're all evolving. And this is just the iteration of you today, but there's a lot of wonderful things about that, strengths and right? And attributes to that. And sure, we all got some flaws too, right? So it's just about knowing it's not either or. It's not, we can't be just striving to be the next thing. We have to embrace who we are.
Yeah. And that's a good thing.
It is.
Yeah. So whether you're driving a car, out for a walk, or sitting in front of a computer, just say, yay, that.
Yeah.
I'm okay the way I am. And I can continue to grow and become someone more.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we want to have the things in our life, and we do need to be the person that will have those things. And we might not have all of those characteristics or attributes today, but we can step into them.
Yes.
And then we can take the actions that version of ourself would take, right? And have the things that version of ourself will have.
Yes.
But in the same time, embrace that journey and embrace who you are. So that's really what today is all about. So it's really about how you hold these two opposing perspectives, values, at the same time, right? How you hold on to those, who you are, who you're evolving to be, and becoming that next version of you at the same time.
Yeah. It's magic.
It's magic. So if you're like other emerging, evolving healthcare leaders or just individuals, right, you might be making at least one of these mistakes. One is you're setting too high of a standard for yourself. Now, I've never done that. The recovering perfectionist. You hold a belief that you need to be fixed, or you need to fix yourself, or you need to fix your weaknesses. Maybe you're playing small, so people won't realize that you actually feel like an imposter in your role. You're not everything people think you're cracked up to be. And you believe that your options are only the things that are right in front of you.
Right. Right.
We all have way more options than we can see.
They're out there.
They're out there.
They're out there. Yeah. But there's some challenges, and there's reasons that sometimes we can kind of fall into those barriers. And one is that as a new emerging leader, you're really excited to take on this new leadership role. And after a while in it, maybe your confidence starts to shake a little bit. You're wondering if you deserve this role, or did I get in over my head? And you start to doubt yourself, right? And that can kind of bring up things for you. Or as an evolving leader, so you're continuing to grow. Maybe you've been in a leadership role for a while and you're wanting to make a transition, do something different, but you don't feel like you have the capability. Okay. So, or you're even questioning, am I ready for that move? Am I ready for that next big thing? So you're questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the whole, the step you need to take is to leverage both of these, right?
Yep.
Leverage the tension, because you're feeling that tension between who you are and who you want to be. Leverage that. Don't let it work on you. Honor who you are today, stepping into who you want to be. That's never going to go away.
Nope.
If you're on any kind of growth trajectory as an individual leader, that you're always going to be facing that, because that's why we're here.
That's right.
We're on this earth to grow and evolve as human beings, right? And so you're always going to be facing this. And it's really just leveraging that by being the best you can be today, and grasp onto the characteristics, the skills, the things that for the individual that you aspire to be. So you can only then will you achieve that greater purpose of being your very best self, when you are leveraging both who you are and who you're becoming.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, by leveraging that tension between the two, you'll be able to achieve the positive outcomes of both. Yeah. Of being who you are, yay, and who you want to become. Yeah. And to achieve that greater purpose, as Tracy just said. So what are some positive outcomes of just simply being who you are? It's okay, First of all, you have compassion for yourself, right? Give yourself a break. Stop beating yourself up. You're pretty cool just the way you are right now. Yeah. And have clarity on your strength and your nature of who you are. So knowing yourself, by really knowing yourself today, then you can be totally comfortable with who you are right now, and becoming self-aware, and just growing that self-awareness and embracing all of you, all your flaws, everything that's unique about you, all your quirks. Lord knows I have a lot of them.
Well, we all do. That's what makes us all unique.
I know.
Right? Otherwise, we'd all be the same, and that'd be pretty
That'd
darn
be pretty boring.
Yeah.
And also another positive outcome of just being yourself is it just helps you practice vulnerability. And vulnerability is a strength.
Oh,
It's
it
really
is.
needed. It's needed in our families. It's needed in our workplaces. And so if you're not really comfortable with being who you are, it's harder to be vulnerable. And that's really a strength.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so, there are positive outcomes also for, focusing on who you aspire to be. And, I think we're probably all pretty familiar with these, but we'll talk about them anyway. One is embodying new characteristics. So really stepping in to being that next version, whether that's being vulnerable. Maybe you're not vulnerable now, and that's really being vulnerable with yourself, with others. It can be just, stepping into being courageous, being bold, being disciplined, whatever it is that's being called for, stepping into that and taking on that characteristic and learning how to embody that every day. Another can be just expanding your skills. So learning about polarity intelligence, right? Or, learning new leadership skills or even management skills, right? If you're an emerging leader and you don't have a lot of experience. So learning new skills also is going to help you to evolve right into that person that you want to become. The other is be clear on who you are becoming. Like, who is that person, right? What is it that they are doing and having that you want, and who do you need to be to take those actions to get those outcomes that you're looking for? And claiming your personal power. Because oftentimes, when you are not acknowledging yourself for all the greatness that you are giving up your personal power, right? We are very powerful people. Each of us has our own personal power. And when you're not compassionate with yourself, right, and you're beating yourself up over any kind of flaw that you have, then you're really giving away that personal power that you have to become that person, to step into that, right, to overcome any kind of challenges that might come your way. Yeah. And so, because we're here to grow, I always kind of think, like we're all just this beautiful work of art, right? That's just evolving as we go through every day and the seasons of our lives. And, I kind of think about it, according to researchers, our body replaces itself every 7 to 10 years.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. I'm like, okay, all these little parts in me are going to get better. But really, okay, so I'd write this down.
Can things
right?
shift around?
I hope so.
Good.
But different parts of our body rejuvenate itself in a shorter time period. So as an example, red blood cells in our body, every 4 months, they rejuvenate themselves. Our skin cells, every 2 to 4 weeks. Our hair, 6 years for women, 3 years for men. Now, there's something backwards about that because women care more about their hair, maybe. I don't know. Your stomach lining cells replace every 5 days.
That's amazing.
I mean, I just think that's amazing, right? So our bodies are always rejuvenating, evolving, right? And then think about this from a, kind of a more external perspective. But any famous athlete, just think about any famous athlete. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, Michael Phelps, right? They didn't start out as the greatest athletes of their time.
Nope.
Right? They didn't. They evolved into being that great athlete by leveraging who they were in the moment and then embracing the characteristics of that great athlete that they wanted to be, right? So they embraced who they were, honored the skills and the strengths that they had in that moment, and added on to that. But they didn't, beat themselves up about who they were at that time, right? It was all part of their journey. So you can do that too.
Yes, you can. Yes. You can. So this is what we do. We coach emerging and evolving leaders in our True, Thriving, Resilient, Unstoppable Healthcare Leadership Coaching Program to create that dynamic balance between these two poles by using the dynamic balance effect framework. And really, this has been such awesome work because we work with leaders and we honor who they are now and help them embrace about, who they want to be. And we're on that journey with them. And it's pretty awesome work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
We feel very blessed.
Yeah. And each person has a different trajectory, right?
Yep.
A different person they want to step into, their next evolution of themselves as a leader. And so it's really fun to watch. But, you may or may not realize when you over focus on aspiring to be that new version of yourself, right? Without embracing who you really are, that you're going to experience some negative consequences, right? Like not having compassion for yourself, right? Just beating yourself up more than you are being compassionate for yourself. Having a lack of awareness of the strengths that you do have. If you're so focused on getting, away from where you are into what you want, you don't even recognize the strengths that you have or the gifts and talents that you can bring, right? Even just lacking awareness of your true nature and the power behind that true nature. And then also just being unwilling to be vulnerable because you're just so focused on what you got to get, not what you have, right? So, and sometimes too, our ego, our subconscious will keep us in that space because it thinks that's our comfort zone. It thinks that's our safety space, and anything outside, right, is too much. So then it's going to pull you back. Right? It's going to keep pulling you back to being where you are, right? Instead of having you to sustain those positive outcomes that you're going after. And if you stay in that comfort zone and don't evolve, there's consequences to that too.
Yes, there are.
Right? So consequences like stagnation, limiting skill sets, you can't see yourself, right? Embodying other characteristics, and you abdicate your personal power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To grow and evolve, right? So those are some of the negative consequences that you can experience when you're over focusing on one or the other.
Yeah. So ultimately, if you're not taking simultaneous action on, the positive outcomes of being who you are today and also becoming the person that you want to be, then you will realize your deepest fear. And instead of being the best version of yourself, oh my gosh, you're going to be the worst version of yourself.
Yeah, that's the deepest fear.
That is the deepest fear. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So the same is true for all of you listening out there. Chances are that, someone saw potential in you before you maybe even saw it in yourself. This can be something that kind of gets us unstuck when other people see the potential in us. And they are encouraging you to take on a new role. So pay attention to that. And also, the potential is in you just waiting to be nurtured and released. So give some thought to that.
It's like that. It's like the potential inside an acorn.
Yes, it is.
Right? All the acorn needs is to be planted and nurtured to grow into a big tree, right? So it's the same thing. We all have that little piece of potential inside of us. And as long as we're nurturing who we are and it's a fertile soil for it to grow, it'll grow, right? Mm-hmm. It'll die if we don't nurture who we are today, right? And help that to grow. So the dynamic balance effect framework helps the leaders do that, right? It helps them to recognize that potential, leverage this tension between, these two what might appear to be competing values, right? And their natural abilities, right? Just really leverage those natural abilities and strengths that they have while they step into the potential of becoming that next version of themselves.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of leaders kind of go from that acorn into that tree by leveraging the dynamic balance effect framework. And one of them really comes to my mind, Tracy, was just amazing. She came to us through our survival boot camp, and this was during COVID. And one of the things she recognized is she was just kind of stuck. I don't think she really had taken time for herself to even appreciate her strengths and to appreciate where she was at the time. But she was very clear that she wanted to be the best version of herself, both at work and at home, and that she wanted to make a difference in creating joy in other people's life. And that was broad for her family, for her patients, for her staff. And the first step that we did in working with her is help her look at the and both of being her best self in her professional role as a director and as in her personal life as a mother and grandmother and wife and all of those roles. And it just started at first by taking action in both of those places and then just getting energized by it, that, I can make different choices. I can really live my best life in both of these places. And then we started to do the mindset work. And that's where the big changes started to happen. And we watched her move into an identity of being proactive, organized, disciplined, because those are all things she aspired to be. And she realized she could start taking action on them now, and challenged a lot of her beliefs that she had that were holding her back. Yeah. And I can make choices. I can be organized. That was a big thing for her. And ultimately, recognizing her strengths was huge.
Yeah.
So she really uncovered how she was naturally good at strategy and doing things that she could apply to her being her best self as well. And then it became easier once she identified that. And ultimately, she ended up changing roles, becoming very successful in a new organization. And it was just amazing to watch her go through accepting who she was. And she kind of felt like just not making any progress for, I'm talking years.
Long time, yeah, many years.
To all of a sudden shifting things, getting clear on who she wanted to become, and then stepping in and becoming that person along the way.
And becoming more of who she already was. When she recognized her strengths, it was just kind of like, wow, right? So it was just kind of like, right? And so that was what was so cool, is because she became more of who she was as she started to move into becoming more of who she wanted to be. And it's just a beautiful thing to observe.
It was. It
is. And she is out there just rocking and
rolling.
Yeah.
Still today.
Yeah. So that kind of concludes the episode for today. And I really, really hope that you got as much out of this as we had fun delivering it.
Yes.
This is just, it's just at the heart of pretty much everything we do, right? In helping leaders and the journeys we've been on as individuals, as, leaders ourselves. And so we hope you enjoyed it. And we want to thank you for listening to another episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast. And if you're new to us, welcome. We're glad to have you. And if you're a leader motivated to be your best self, despite all of the challenges that you're facing, right? Then join our early interest list for our Leadership Survival Bootcamp. That is really kind of the first step in really becoming a thriving, resilient, unstoppable leader. And you can join that interest list by going to our website, missinglogic.com/new-events, and you can sign up on the interest list. We've got a proven strategy that will help you with surviving in this time and get your feet kind of firmly on the path to thriving. And then if you're a leader who has a leadership team that you really want to invest in, that you really want them to be thriving, resilient, unstoppable leaders, we're happy to talk with you. You can reach out to us at our email. That's either Tracy@missinglogic.com or Michelle@missinglogic.com. And we're happy to share with you the different ways that we work with groups of healthcare leaders to help them become thriving, resilient, unstoppable leaders in all of these challenging times, right?
Right.
You can also follow us on LinkedIn at Missing Logic LLC and other social media platforms as well. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter so you can be in touch with us every week, get the haps on what we're up to and some, other valuable pieces of information that we share with our newsletter subscribers. And you can do that from our website as well. And that's missinglogic.com/newsletter.
Yeah.
And that's it for today, huh?
That's it. That was a great session.
Yeah, it was great. So until next time, stay safe and stay healthy.
See ya.
See you then.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Healthcare's Missing Logic podcast, now a top-rated podcast for healthcare leaders. Please share this podcast with other healthcare leaders and anyone else you think would benefit. We are certain that if you found value in it, they will too. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes. And also, it would mean the world to us if you took a quick moment to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player. It helps to get the word out about our podcast and incredible guests. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch our podcasts. You can also follow us on our MissingLogic social media channels, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time.